think we already know.
All right.
Can I get your name? Sorry.
Anthony Morgan, ANTHONYMORGAN. I'm a lawyer at Faulkner's LLP. I'm a community advocate, and I've done extensive work on this issue of carding, particularly on representing African Canadians in instances of involvement with the police. I think one of the important things for us to recognize from this report is that we have yet another one from Dr. Gardner and Professor Du that shows that, once again, carding is not effective. It has continued to be justified as something that is helpful for a community, but ultimately we're finding that the impacts that it has on the level of trust, transparency, confidence in the very police services we're supposed to be relying on, simply not there. And so the costs outweigh any speculative benefit to this practice. It's been found and it's been argued time and time again for the last few years that it's violative of community members' human rights, particularly Black citizens, Indigenous folks, brown folks, but also there are LGBTQ community members who find themselves violated by this. And it's important that we see that there is a connection between instances of carding and what we saw in the hate report. So you have a legacy of over-policing of community members with the practice of carding, but also the Toronto Anti-Violence Intervention Strategy and other forms of aggressive policing. And then you have these upticks within hate crimes, and you wonder why there's so few arrests. Community members are not coming forward because they do not feel comfortable and confident in their police service to say that these are the experiences that we're having, can you investigate? If they've already been dehumanized in one form, when they're not doing anything wrong, why, when they've been victimized, would they feel that this is a force that they can trust? And that's what's considerably lacking. And I think what needs to happen now, when we're talking about carding, is that data, that information that came from the report, it should be used to look at what we can do to further engage community in a process to eliminate what essentially amounts to, from what I hear in community, what they would call plantation policing. This is not something they want to continue to see within their communities. And in terms of the hate crimes report, looking at how we can develop a strategy, as was suggested before, to work towards supporting community. Why? Because we've seen that these reports have been year over year that the Black community has been overwhelmingly targeted by hate crimes, yet still there hasn't been an aggressive strategy within the city to engage in meaningful consultation and working towards this very particular thing of anti-Black hate within our city.
En français, est-ce que vous pouvez nous... Yeah. En français, maintenant, donc, on parle de faire des engagements avec la communauté, des interactions communautaires. Est-ce que vous pensez que cette proposition-là va changer les choses?
Oui, je pense que ça va vraiment changer les choses parce qu'on a beaucoup de membres de la communauté qui ne sentent pas que ça c'est une société pour eux-mêmes. Il y a l'impression qu'ils ont que le Canada, c'est pas une place qui vraiment encourage la participation de la communauté noire. Alors, quand on a une situation où les policiers disent, OK, on a ces statistiques, cette information-là qui disent il y a un problème. Comment est-ce qu'on peut travailler ensemble pour arranger ou changer les choses? Parce que c'est des décennies qu'on voit qu'il y a des problèmes. Alors, quand on a une conversation qui est honnête, qui est basée sur les principes des droits de l'humain, droits de la personne, je pense que ça va vraiment changer les choses.
Vous parlez d'un lien inquiétant entre les crimes haineux et cette pratique-là du fichage. Qu'est-ce qui peut changer? Qu'est-ce qui peut faire changer les choses? Qu'est-ce qui peut rétablir cette confiance-là?
Je pense que l'une des premières choses que les policiers doivent faire est dit qu'ils ont fait des grands problèmes et qu'ils ont brisé les relations entre la communauté et eux-mêmes, les policiers. Parce qu'ils n'ont pas dit ça encore. Ils n'ont pas dit « I'm sorry pour ces pratiques ici » et maintenant on peut regarder un avenir qu'on peut travailler ensemble. Ils n'ont jamais dit qu'il y avait des années passées qu'on fait ça et maintenant on demande à vous d'accepter nos stratégies pour dire qu'il y a un problème. Quand ils font ça, je pense que la communauté va regarder et ça va vraiment changer les choses. On a vu un exemple de ça, le policier de Kingston, il y a des années passées, c'était une apologie et c'était direct à la communauté noire. Et il y a beaucoup de communautés ici à Toronto qui n'ont pas eu cette apologie. Merci.
might be me. Let's undo this and take off this.
Chief, we're talking about karma today. Can you talk to us about that? The finding that happened before?
Yeah, well, let's get back to the definition again, because you know what, that's where things starts to become suspect. Under no circumstance have I ever said that I support the random stopping and questioning and gathering of information of anybody. That is not effective policing, and that is nothing that is not a thing that we've ever practiced or condoned as a procedure in our policies. Moving forward with the regulated interactions, it gives those strict restrictions or those strict parameters when it comes to those non-criminal moments where we're going to be gathering information. It is voluntary, and people are it's right-based, so that people have the right to leave, and they are asked up front of that. Now, what we have done is we've created one of the highest watermarks in Ontario, where we have an independent panel of a judge, of the chair, and of a member of the public to review every quarterly the times that we have been in those types of interactions. And that is just a sliver of what we do on a daily basis. And they will review, and they'll have a fulsome understanding of when we have done it, when we have, why we have done it, and a better comprehension of that. And when we talk about, you know, all of this information was gathered unlawfully, that is just wrong. That is wrong. When you look at 70% of those interactions that occurred over that 3-year period, and 70% were radio calls, traffic stops, and general investigation. My officers are going in a park and they see people drinking, and rather than give a ticket, they write them out on that instead. That is discretion. It is lawful, and in fact, it is good policing. So it is not this massive pool of unlawful information. That is just categorically incorrect.
Chief, I wanted to ask you a little bit about tasers. You mentioned the case that was closed by the SAU today where a man he died after being tasered, and it was found, as you read out, that that was not a contributing factor in his death. I just wondered, I know that the family has filed a statement of claim against the police in that case, and it was held in abeyance until the conclusion of the SIU investigation. I wondered if you're now going to refute the claims in that lawsuit, which are that police acted unlawfully, essentially.
The police didn't act unlawfully. The SIU conducted the investigation, as they always do, and we have to stand by their decision, and based on their decision, they made it very clear that the taser was not a direct result of the death of that gentleman. It's unfortunate when we have any interaction and there's loss of life. We examine and we look at our procedures and our policies and what can we do to prevent that, first and foremost. But at the end of the day, when we are acting in a lawful way, when we're called because someone is acting in a violent manner, and we're called to help remedy that situation, and a taser, which is an effective tool if used properly, and when you look at our report, which talks about judgment training, or doesn't talk about judgment training, but when you look at the numbers, where 55% of the taser use is display only, out of 27,000 arrests, we are talking 0.5% that a taser is used on a person. That is incredibly low. So that shows that judgment training on top of the equipment is what the right way of doing business is. It's an effective way. It is a less lethal option. And I think it's something that needs to have a real discussion, and not rhetoric, but a real discussion. And so over the months where we have to remain silent because we don't have that investigation, the carriage of that investigation, and people are going out and saying the taser caused that death, and you have a pathologist, not Dr. Constable, saying that the taser is not a factor. It was a cocaine overdose, which is what it was. And so let's have that, use that discussion to move forward so that if it is something that is going to be discussed later on about expansion or how to use more effectively, then at least the narrative is correct and it's not rhetoric.
Chief Saunders, you're talking about community engagements and community interactions, but what are you doing specifically to ensure that this doesn't revert back to a practice like carding that is, that could be racially biased?
Well, I listed all of the things that we have done, and we're continuing to do that. So I'm not going to do that again. If you had the opportunity there, which you were in there, you make note of that. So Toronto Police Service is exceptional when it comes to being proactive in enhancing relationships. It's one of the reasons why we're always considered an employer of choice, because we understand diversity, we embrace diversity, and we always have our foot in the gas when it comes to those issues, when it comes to being sensitive to the communities and the diverse communities and their needs. Number two, when we look at the modernization of the police service, when we talk about the importance of the neighborhood officer, where we develop relationships at a neighborhood relationship, that is going to be one of the strong keys to success for building stronger bridges.
Just speaking on hate crimes, can you speak to the increase in hate crimes compared to the decrease in arrests?
Well, when we talk about the increase, it's very, very slight. My concern, I guess, overall would be the fact that people may not be reporting it, and so that would be a concern if somebody's being victimized and feeling that they can't speak to the police. I've got a problem with that, and there may be some cultural nuances to that, maybe newcomers or people along those lines, LGBTQ, and so I want to make it loud and clear that if you feel that you're subject to that type of criminal offense, to let us know, so that we have a real idea of what the pulse is. It's one thing to report what's reported, but it's another thing to look at what's not reported. So as a police service and moving forward, one of the things we want to do is try to capture stronger relationships so that people feel more comfortable to talk to us about any type of criminal activity that may occur.
Just a quick follow-up on the tasers. I can completely appreciate in your annual report that you can't put that there's a death when it hasn't been proven conclusive that the taser was part of that, was the reason for the death. Is there anything stopping you from putting in that there is an ongoing investigation into whether that's the case in these kinds of incidents?
If I'm going to investigate over a cardiologist or a pathologist?
No, just that a death is under review by the SIU. I think that's what we heard in there.
Oh, yes, that's under investigation. Yeah, and you know, hopefully come next month when we have Justice Tulloch, who I'm very excited to hear what the conclusions are going to be, what the modifications are going to be when it comes to the Police Services Act. I think that the public, the appetite for getting information in a timely fashion is something that is important right now. I have a notice whenever there's something that I have control of to get the information out in a timely fashion. And I think that the more holes that we create, the longer the time before decisions and answers come out, it creates, I think, it reduces trust. People have concerns, and more importantly, people fill in the blanks. More times than not, what they fill in the blanks with is incorrect.
Sorry, let me clarify. I think what we heard in there was a question about why in the annual taser report, you couldn't put that there is a death that's under review by the SIU that involves a taser.
No, the question was death caused by taser. We answered that question.
Right, but why couldn't you say that there's an ongoing review as to whether or not the taser played a role in someone's death at this juncture?
It's a report on taser, and the question is, did the taser cause death? So we've given the more accurate, which is nothing has told us that yet. And just as I said with the last case, I'm not going to speculate. I think that I'm doing a disservice to the community to speculate. And I didn't hide this. This was not hidden in the report. Nobody did a deep dive and found this eureka moment. We put an asterisk beside it to say, look, by the way, this one is under further review. So, I mean, if you read the report,
That's actually not in the agenda. It's not. There's no asterisk there. I checked.
Well, we made it clear. We've told the public that this one was under investigation. So there wasn't a deep research to find this out and push it in front. We made it very clear. We're not hiding. There's no secret. There's transparency. We do have confidentiality things that we have to look at. It's an SIU investigation. And for us to talk on SIU investigations and conclude on SIU investigations, we can't do it. We're not allowed to do that by law. So we have to wait for them to come out with the conclusions.
That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And that vote was a show.